Welcome. This is the first broadcast of our player group to talk through some of the stressors and things that are happening to players. And I'm here to interview a group of players that are spread throughout the country in the 17 and 18-year-old range, some committed to college, some not. We produced a research campaign or a survey that went out, and we had 3,000 players respond in that research to different things. And I think some of the point here was that my players that play for me with the TC Colorado program felt like there was a lot of noise on behalf of the parents, and there wasn't a lot of the storyboard about the players. And so today, our goal is to bring you their story of what's happened behind the scene for them from throughout the country. So on our panel today from Colorado, we have Hannah, an outfielder headed to Furman. We have Bailey, an unsigned junior pitcher. We have Allie that's sitting on a tractor here in Colorado. We have Tessa in California, Firecrackers headed to UCLA. We've got Jaya and Michaela, both players for Louisville Lady Sluggers, and they're headed on to Florida State. And then we've got Lauren, who's a player out of the Texas Glory system, headed to Wichita State. So I'm going to start the survey off and just give you the hard numbers of what we've got. If you look at the screen on the survey, you're going to see that of the 3,000 people that were asked to be a part of this survey, it was a pretty good distribution, meaning we got almost 20% of seniors, 2020s going on, 2021s was a large group, 22s, good group, and then our younger group on below. And then we even had some college players answer it. And later on, you'll see we had a few guys step on and said we were left out. We needed to be a part of the survey. So I'm going to start the question with some of the stressors that have been. And I'm going to go to Bailey Carlson, who was kind of a trigger behind us doing this, and say, Bailey, what has been the single biggest thing that the last 2 months has done to you and your routine?
It's probably just like messed up my routine really bad because I had the same routine for almost 6 months, just like school, work, or softball, and then I can't do any of that, so I got really bored, and it's like it takes a toll on my mental health almost because I can't play softball or I can't be around people, and I'm a really extroverted person, so it's hard on me mentally like that.
Would you say, Bay, that without softball, it's a challenge for your routine?
Yeah, like that's been my life. It's like having to relive not being cleared, not being able to play again, which really isn't fun for me since I already did that for 7 months, and I don't want to do it again.
Yeah, those things make a lot of sense here. I'm going to scroll on down here and pick up the next set of questions. You're the one that hasn't committed. So obviously if we don't play in May and we don't play in June and it's questionable, July starts to have question marks, or June we play late in July, but coaches can only do certain things. What's your fear as an unsigned player?
I'm really hoping to get to a higher level, but I'm afraid I can't because they like to see their players, and they didn't get to see me last summer, so I'm afraid, like, how am I supposed to get up to the higher level if they can't even see me and I can't play in front
And
of them?
what's some of the history of, what position you play?
Pitcher.
And are you good?
Yes.
Okay. You've won a state championship?
As a freshman.
Yes, okay. So you've got some background in that space. You're able to do some things. We also got on the call a number of players that are committed to go on to college, and so I'm going to jump over and grab one that's committed to go to college right now and then kind of talk through that one just a little bit from that standpoint. Lauren, why don't you tell me a little bit about where you're going and maybe some of the fears you have about this whole process in the last 2 months for you.
So I'm going to Wichita State, and some of my biggest fears probably lie more with the college situation. So all of those players being able to get their eligibility back, so that instead of having like a little less than 20 or maybe 22 on the roster, there's 25 of us, and for conference we can only carry 22. So that, I mean, and now there's like 16 of us that are freshmen. I mean, we're not all freshmen, but we're all like first year eligibility. So it's just like the fact that it's not what we expected going into the program.
What do you think a coach would have to do to manage that many incoming players? What's going to be different, or what have they told you might be different?
She hasn't really told us specifically what would be different, but I'm sure there's going to be red shirts, or I mean, hopefully not, but potential cuts. But I'm sure there'll be red shirts for sure.
Okay. Let me pull on down here in the survey, and I'm going to grab Tessa for a second here. And Tessa, I'm going to ask you if there's any extra stress in your life because of this, and if there is, what's causing it?
I think extra stress because of this virus is probably the uncertainty factor.
Definitely not knowing what's going to be happening in the future. And then you hear a lot of rumors on the news like this is going to get canceled, or you hear your school's not going to have graduation. So just not knowing what's going to happen in the future is what's struggling right now with me.
What, we have a situation a lot of times when people sit out injured players, and I'm going to refer this over to Hannah. Hannah, you play and you're headed to Furman. How does this compare to the time you were set out with surgery, and what's it like for you with that scenario? Is it similar?
Sort of like Bailey said, I think it's really similar, and it's kind of hard to relive it because last year I was out for most of the year. And so right when I'm going to get back into it and I'm excited and I'm ready for my senior year and my club year, it's sort of taken away from us. So I think that it's very similar to an injury, and except this time we're kind of all in it together, so we kind of all understand each other instead of just feeling isolated during an injury.
It makes a lot of sense. Tessa, jumping back to you for a second, from where you sit and the time off, has there been things you missed that you look up and say, gosh, I really, really missed something?
Yeah, it would definitely be softball. Like you never realize how much you miss something until it's taken away. And being out there on the field with my teammates was taken away for high school season. And I'm praying that, like in the future for travel ball that we get to actually play this summer. So I miss a lot of.
So I got a screen up here, and I'm going to jump over. Thank you for that, Tessa. I'm going to jump over here to Jaya and just say, Jaya, looking at this screen, there's a list of stressors that are over 40%. And the top one on the list says missing my friends. Explain that to me, how that possibly could be higher than what do friends and teammates mean, and why is that the number one stress of 3,000 young players?
Well, when you think of like humans as a whole, like we all depend on connections, relationships to live our lives. And, like our softball teammates, we pretty much stay with them for 3 whole months during the summer. Like we live together. And so we all become like really close, and like we have these bonds. And to have that stress of not being able to play, like missing out on our seasons with our high school teammates, and knowing that like that could be a possibility, it just really puts like a lot of just like uncertainty in your brain. And as like most people like to be certain about what their future is holding for them, and so just not having the certainty that I get to see my friends this summer from halfway across the country is like, it's kind of sad for a lot of us. So.
But thank you. Michaela, from your standpoint and looking at these anxieties here, which one do you identify with the most? Because you've changed houses in the middle of this. So explain a little bit about your stressors and what's affected you.
As far as my stress, like I said earlier, I'm actually relocated to Tallahassee with my sister simply because I lived with my grandparents, and we all know that older people are in risk of getting this virus, and I still had a lifestyle. I still went out to the softball fields, even when technically I probably shouldn't, but it's something that comforted me during this whole entire time. And my grandma just simply sat down and talked to me saying, hey, I think you should relocate, go to your sister. I don't want to catch this virus. And which from my standpoint, I love her to death and I wouldn't want to put her in any type of situation. So the stress of being away from my family is big, but I think I honestly miss my teammates more than my family because that bond in between those girls is it's crazy how close we are.
No, I can understand that. When you look at this thing, Michaela, and say the disease part you were worried about, kind of lead me into this schoolwork thing because it's in the 2-hole. All of a sudden what does school look like for you, by the way?
As far as school goes, I come from a very small 1A school here in Florida. And so a bunch of my teachers are very old school. They are not really good with technology whatsoever. And so we had a big transformation process from having teachers to learn how to use laptops and computers, how to do Zoom meetings, just having to teach kids from, a mobile desktop is just difficult for them. And so
Are they good at it or not?
some of them are and some of them aren't. And recently my video from my teacher, she did a pre-done class for us and she's just videoing herself with the whiteboard and she's sending it to us. And she paused one time and she says, wow, somebody should be asking me a question right about right now. So, just missing the interaction from like day-to-day basis, like waking up, going to high school, leaving the school and then going to work out or whatever it may be, just seeing people's faces is just, we all took it for granted.
Yeah. Allie, where are you at? I'm going to turn it over to Allie and just kind of describe where you're at because Michaela explained at-home classes, and you obviously are living in a different space. So fill us in what you're doing and where you're sitting.
Right. Well, I have to say routine hasn't really changed much. On the weekends, even when school was going on, I'm out on the farm working in the tractor, whatnot. So routine for me, we're still out on the farm. Cows still need to be fed. That doesn't change. So routine really hasn't changed much for me besides fitting in schoolwork around work rather than fitting work around school. But other than that, routine has pretty much been the same here, and we're out doing as much as we can farming. So
would you say now you've got a double situation here? You were injured in your junior year and you haven't been seen. You just started playing high-end club ball for basically a weekend, and then it all disappeared. Is there anything between the disease and your injury that maybe you can share some similarities? Because most injured players say they feel like they're invincible.
Right. So I actually am 4 months post-up right now, and coming out and trying to work through physical therapy and work on the recovery process during all of this is one thing as is. And then yet alone, everybody else kind of being stuck in the same situation I've been stuck in for a while now. It kind of breaks my heart for everybody else, having everybody else go through the same thing. But it's really upsetting when everybody else can't really control it. And it's not necessarily that I can control it either, but, they have the ability to go out there and play. And the fact that they can't, and they're kind of stuck in the same boat I am, makes me feel for them for sure.
Thanks, Al. Lauren, explain to me which stressor on that list that hits you the most. And give me a story about why.
Definitely not being able to see my teammates because Texas Glory, we have a lot of players from different states. So I can't necessarily see everybody unless we were to do a team Zoom call, which we haven't done. But not being able to see the girls that I, spend 3 months with every summer, that's been the hardest part, just being cooped up without social interaction.
I'm going to jump back. Thank you, Lauren. I'm going to jump back over to Bailey. And you sit here in Colorado, and we've been running Zoom practices for almost a month now, maybe even longer. 8 practices a week, Zoom. Explain that and how that works and what that's meant to.
Well, basically, it's just it was almost like a routine. I would wake up Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6:40, get ready, work out for an hour, and then the Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'd always look forward to just seeing my team or seeing my other pitchers on Tuesdays, and it kind of gave a light in my day almost, because I would have nothing to do, but I'd look forward to doing that with people.
How about you, Hannah? From your standpoint, I see your face on a lot of these Zoom screens on hitting practices and things like that. What did that mean just to gap you between?
I'm so thankful that we are able to find a way to be together and to still get our physical activity in and to still get practices in. It's really a good way for me to get back into a routine, because if I didn't have a practice to go to or a early morning workout to wake up for, I would probably just lay in bed and stay inside, and it really gives me a reason to get up and to physically take care of my body, and it helps me mentally too, because I get to see my teammates even if it's just over a screen.
Tessa, do you guys do any online practicing yourself? And if not, then run with the question of what it's like being 24/7 with family.
Definitely. Being with Tony Rico, he has not skipped a beat at all. Right when we found out we were going to be quarantined, he made sure everyone got Zoom links, and we check in every Thursday at 4:30, and I get to see some of my teammates from Florida and Texas. So it's good seeing everyone's faces. And then he also every week sends out a list for each player of like 10 drills, whether it be throwing mechanics or fundy drills, so that we're staying in shape and doing everything we need to do to get prepared for the summer. And then we record these clips and send it back to him. And, you know, he loves looking at them and giving little feedback here and there. So I'm staying in shape by doing everything he's asking us to do.
What about, Tessa, what about the staying at home thing, about being home 24/7? How does that work?
I thought it was going to be a little harder than it was. I have 3 other siblings, 2 younger brothers, and then an older sister home from college. So we're here in Southern California. We don't have a lot of acres like Allie's saying over there. So just staying at home is a little difficult right now. I've kind of gotten into a little groove myself where we go out to a park by ourselves that's open and work out. But we have a lot of home cooked meals now, picking up on a lot of different things that I didn't get to do before quarantine, like maybe playing a few instruments here and there. So I'm getting to do things that I normally didn't get to do.
Michaela, you want to jump on that because you changed households and you're now 24/7 in a new house you weren't in. What's that routine like for you?
It's a lot different. You know, I have been preparing all 3 meals for myself. My sister is not a cook, and she does not expect for her to cook for me. So I'm having to cook breakfast, lunch, and dinner for myself. But to go along with workouts, I have found it being quite interesting here in Tallahassee. I have found multiple places that I've never seen. I go outside and I go on long, long runs or jogs, walks. Just whenever I'm bored, it just helps me relieve myself of my anxiety problems and almost like a small mild depression from not being able to see like people that I love the most. And you know, having just to call my mom about, I don't know, 5 times a day just to tell her that I love her. And you know, it's really hard because I mean all of my family just about is in risk of getting the coronavirus. All of them take a lot of medication, and so you just have to do what you have to do for your family and for your friends.
Very good. Who else has at-risk family members from COVID that wants to step in and talk? That anyone that has someone that you're worried about all the time about not touching them, not being around them, other than Michaela? Anybody? That's good. Then that's a good thing to know. Jay, on this list of being at home, tell me a little bit about being at home and where you're at with it.
It's pretty nice. We're going into the first phase of like reopening everything. So the beach is just open today, and so of course everybody probably went down there. But they have some good restrictions on it. Like you can only be in groups of 10. You get to be walking on the beach. You can't be laying down on the beach. You just 6 feet away from other groups if you're with a group. And I mean it's pretty cool. Like you see like how they're starting to like put us back into like normalcy, I guess. I think next week they're going to start opening up like some like restaurants and stuff, but have it at like 25% capacity. So it's pretty cool to like see it coming back so quickly, because honestly I didn't expect it to come back for like at least a year. But we're seeing a lot of progress from our governor, and I'm really thankful for it because it gives me a lot of hope that we'll get to play this summer.
Thomas. Okay, so we had with a pop-up screen. I don't know if you see it, but we have a social event in our offices on Friday called Beer Friday, and it just popped up on my Zoom reminders, and so or Thomas's Zoom reminders. So we're going to dismiss that. Oh, it popped up again. So we got it gone now. Okay, on the worry side, I think, has anybody got a worry that we haven't hit or haven't covered? Because the next one is where your support's coming from. And this is kind of was one of the neat answers of the whole thing, is that all of a sudden, parents don't get me. Coaches got me. Friends get me. And then we walk down here and we see these results all of a sudden. And all of a sudden, you guys got a new respect for your parents. So I'm going to jump over to Hannah on this one and say, what the heck does that mean all of a sudden?
So I think it's just being all together, that you're really able to talk with them and you're able to connect with them more. So they see my struggles and they see how I'm dealing with this, and they look at me and notice that I'm not the same as I was when I was able to go out. So I think that that's really been cool for us, especially with me leaving for college next year and going across to the other end of the country. I think it's been cool for us to share and cool for us to kind of grow our relationship, because they've been a huge support system with me through this time when we wouldn't normally get to spend this much time together.
Very good. Lauren, how about you in this space?
I've really seen support from like every corner. What I really appreciate is my coaches, because they have made it super clear that like if you're not comfortable going out, doing a workout or something like that, don't do it. Because your health definitely comes before, your softball ability, and your mental health comes before all of that. And so our coaches have been really good about, if you're not comfortable doing something, don't go do it. And my family has been just as supportive in that, they just always have our backs and stuff like that. And my friends always checking in on me. I appreciate all of that. So.
Allie, you've been around your family a lot, living on a farm. So do you see any big change in how your parents have handled you in the more available worker?
Yeah, a little bit. I think the biggest thing though, coming from a small town, we're really big on tradition and not getting that traditional graduation or your like senior prom, for instance. And just like my parents going through, been the same tradition since they've gone through it. And so I think they are able to kind of relate and feel for me from that aspect, with the tradition not being what it should have been. I guess we all have those expectations of what it should be, and not having that, I think, is where they can really relate from there.
Okay. Tessa, on that one, as far as graduation and routine that's being missed, what did it mean to your family losing it or not having it to be able to do prom and do graduation and a few other routines?
My family's huge on traditions as well. And our senior day was supposed to be April 17th. And my family actually surprised me with my own little senior day at the park. So they took me out there and they had a carpool drive-by where everyone was honking and they had signs outside the car. So that was really nice and special. And not having graduation, it's tough, but our school's trying to modify it to do a virtual graduation for everyone. So, we're going to work through it and move on, because there's nothing else we could do.
Good point. Michaela, how about you in that space of traditions and routine?
At my school, we are known for our sports, being volleyball and softball, and I so happen to play both, and I'm a 4-time volleyball champion. And so like tradition wise, we always had a ring ceremony in March, and that got completely canceled. And I still have not received my ring. And we used to have like a big meetup. We'd go out and eat at one of the nicest steakhouses like nearby. And it was always a big celebration there. And then being able to go to graduation with all your medals, all of your cords, all of your rings, and just kind of flaw off what you have done over the past 4 years. And there's nothing that's going to replace that. and there's no redoing it. There's no trying again, because I mean, this is the position that the virus has put us in. And so my high school is trying our best to do a graduation. As of right now, we're supposed to be doing a drive-by graduation in which everybody will be lined up in their vehicles and everybody has to be in their cap and gown, unfortunately. And we're supposed to step outside of our vehicle, and I think they are going to hand us our diploma. I have no idea from there on out, but it seems like a pretty good idea. And honestly, if I would just see the place one more time before I have to leave there finally and not be considered a high school student anymore, it would be a really nice thing to happen. So
Very good. Jaya, how about you? Routines for you. What's missing?
I mean, a lot of it's well, I'm a lot like Allie. Like, I work with my mom at her school right now. I'm helping kids like do tests and stuff, and it's just a lot different than what I'm used to. I mean, it's harder for me to have time for my schoolwork. It's just I'm having to manage a lot more things than I thought I'd have to during quarantine. Like FSU, we do workouts in the morning, and we're keeping each other accountable. But it's like I have to wake up so early just to get them in because I have to be here. Like, I'm here right now, but it's just those little things like that, and just but one thing that's always that's been consistent has been our coaches, Coach Hecker. He's always been there, with the Zoom calls consistently. It's always on Sundays at 6:00. Be there. Okay, we're all there. We're always talking. We're having fun, and those are the little things that help a lot with having to go through this and having a lot of things taken away. To know that those people are still going to have your back no matter what, even when this is over, it means more than anything.
Super. I'm going to let you try to explain this one to me. So it looks like sleep's increased and eating's increased as a habits. Jaya, I mean, does your day look different now? Do you sleep more? Do you eat more? Obviously, the routines change some. How would you explain the numbers here? That sleep is really big.
I can definitely see how a lot of kids are going to be affected by this negatively. I can. My little sister, she stays home all day. She sleeps till 1:00, and I'm as jealous as I am. I know that I'm getting all the work in that I need to get in, but some kids aren't going to be that lucky. They're going to take it for granted, and obesity is a huge problem in our country. And so it's really important to have kids getting active from a young age and being at school and having a scheduled time to eat, having a scheduled time for everything that is going on in a kid's life is really important to us as teenagers as well as kids. We need that structure to make sure that we're not, sad and depressed about not playing softball and eating all the junk food that we want.
I'm going to bump this over to Bay because Bailey, you slept a little, you said. So fill us in on your routine loss.
So I used to go to bed at 10:30ish on school nights, and I'd wake up at 7 in the morning. I usually will go to bed at 1:30 to 2 in the morning. I'll either wake up for workouts and do my workout, and then I'll go back to bed, or I'll just sleep until 12:30ish.
Is that good, or?
I mean, I get a lot of sleep, but the schedule's kind of not the same as my school schedule.
Okay. Well, I'm looking at this thing, and I'm going to bounce it over to Hannah and just say, schoolwork here looks like it's in that range of the 4 to 8 hour deal. How have you done with schoolwork in the time commitment?
It's been tough just to figure out a way to focus, I would say, just because it's hard to be in a different environment and be learning at the same time. I think I was checked out before this when we were in school anyway, and so to have to try and focus and do it online is really tough. But it's actually been very good, and I'm very thankful for it because it's given me back the structure in my life. I still have to get up and I have to go to class at 9, and then I have to go to workouts, and then I have to go to practice. So I've actually been very thankful for it, even if I might not be learning as much, because I still get to see my classmates over a screen and have that structure in my life.
Very good. If you take one other number that jumps out to me here, which is spending time with family, is well over 8 hours a day. I doubt that was a number that was ever even close ever in your life, except when you were very little. And so that plus the rating that you gave your parents so high. So Tess, I'm going to throw that back to you and say, this spending time with family in these large chunks, good, bad, really different, really special? What was it?
I think it's really good, actually. I want to spend as much time as I want with them before I go to college. I'm not going that far away, but spending the quality time with my younger brothers and making sure they can hold the house down when I leave is a huge thing for me right now.
Very good. Michaela, on that, as far as spending time with family right now?
For me, it is very, very limited. I live with my sister, yes, but she's also continuing going to work. She works with the Department of Revenue here in Tallahassee, and her schedule is kind of in and out. She works from home some days, and then other days she actually goes to the facility, and that's just simply just limiting the flow of people at the office, which makes sense. But so sometimes I'm literally by myself 24/7, and the
So
best.
you're missing some of that other people are getting.
Yeah, I am. And I'm very jealous of it. And I'm jealous of people that have like tight knit families. My family's never quite been that close, but I mean, the people that I would have to miss the most is like my grandma and my mom. I mean, my mom recently went to the hospital and I couldn't even go see her. So, I mean, it's one of those things where you get kind of nervous about that situation where when your mom's already susceptible to this virus, and then she's having to go to the emergency room because of her heart problem, and you just get nervous because what if she catches it, or what if this and what and that, and you wouldn't be able to see her. And I think that's like the biggest problem that I have.
So this next question, I'll let Allie take it, because you got a double dip here. You got a surgery, ACL, and then you come straight back and COVID on top of ACL. So how important is sports to you? And so what I get down here is this answer that says 80% of you say it's the most important thing in your life. Is it?
Yes, especially, we all have these expectations in front of us, and we all picture how our future is going to be. And unfortunately, it was basketball that the knee injury occurred in, and softball is my number one priority. And especially coming in and looking forward to this upcoming season. I got one weekend after our fall season of high school, since we're in Colorado here. I got one weekend to play with TC, and it took was one weekend, and I realized how much I loved it. And softball has consumed my life for the past 8 or more years. And once something that consumes the majority of your life gets taken from you in more than one aspect, especially, it really kind of just shows how much you relied on that and how much time you've really spent doing that. And once that's taken away from you, it kind of puts it in perspective to kind of see how much you miss it.
Thank you. Lauren, to you?
Personally, softball has always been like my number one priority. Like I've been playing travel select ball since I was 8 years old, and so when that's taken away from you, it really like gives you a lot of free time. Like I had no idea how much time I was really spending playing softball until all of this, and so just like having all of this free time is crazy. Like I don't even know what to do with all of it. So I've been doing my schoolwork because I've got nothing else to do. I've been like doing the extra stuff around the house because like I've been cooking. Like why am I learning how to cook? Because I don't have I can't go play softball. So it's been a really big change of pace, definitely.
Okay, gals, I'm going to walk into some of the issues we're faced with on a bigger level, meaning when we get to play again. And so I asked most of you when you thought it was going to come back, and most of you had the uncertain answer, meaning in general, either the information hasn't got to you or it didn't get back to all the way around to when we're going to play. And I would say the information got to you. The answer is 80% uncertain on when we come back. And so I speak with club coaches and colleges and relay the information back and forth. But right now, if you're lucky enough to be going back to doing anything, you're in a fortunate group right now to be able to practice or have small practices of that nature. So I'm going to bump it over. This gave us a little idea what other sports you guys played in, that most of you were softball predominantly, but you are in other sports. I'm going to bump it over to a college piece of research, and I'm going to give you what the colleges said to me. And I'm going to kind of get your reaction on that, and it'll take us about 7 or 8 minutes to go through it. And then I want to get some of your reactions to what they're faced with as you guys are headed on to college. And so this was the disease impact. 53% of them, college head coaches, didn't know of anybody. 25% had a name to it, but 40% were extremely anxious over it. And from their job standpoint, I think this one will catch you by surprise. That players that played for them, 58% of them had some player family that lost a job. And one of you in the group has a lost job situation yourself. But 12% of the college coaches were in a situation where they've been cut, and you get down that there's a number of them that have a fear of their jobs themselves, meaning that industry gets trimmed back, their assistants get trimmed back, their GAs get trimmed back, their volunteers get trimmed back. So they have a number of concerns here. And then scholarship-wise, they don't believe they're going to have less, but they have a financial burden. But in general, they are going to have a little bit less. 85% say it's going to be very similar, and then the rest say they're going to take a small cut in their scholarship allocation. But budget-wise, we found this almost universal, is that colleges were going to find a situation where their budgets were going to go down 10, 20, and 30%. And 95 of the 230 respondents here were Division I coaches, and 21 of them were Power 5 coaches, which a number of you are playing for. And so financial implications are going to be big. They also had other things that would be affected by them. And so their team travel next year, their fall schedule, their senior scholarships, incoming freshman scholarships, their big road trips, their recruiting trips, hosting camps on campus. They can't hold one this summer, 80% of them. Their professional development, 60% of them are going to lose some of their personal professional development. So they've got impacts there. Their anxiety levels on themselves, their incoming recruits, you guys, their coaching staff, their support staff, the players they currently have, the department, they came back with responses like this, that high to extremely high for incoming recruits. 35% of you were nervous and extremely anxious about what was going on. And that their own athletic department, almost 50% of their athletic department was highly anxious about what was going on and the disease. When I asked them what the current status of their campus was, that right there is pretty telling. Shut. Return in June, that's a sliver. Return in July, that's a sliver. Return in August, small. Return uncertain. So right now they're closed until further notice, and they don't know where they're at as coaches. If I came back and asked them when they're going to start recruiting again for people like Bailey, there's a couple 10% that said they could get out in the summer, but majority of them said they weren't sure when they'd get out, that their campus hadn't released them. And when they came back and asked how they would be allowed to recruit, the question was 12% could get back on a plane again right now, could get on a plane and go recruit. But 46% could get in the car, so it was drive radius stuff. In camps and campuses, we're out recruiting visits for people that really wanted to make a decision between their junior and senior year. They couldn't come back. So I'm going to kind of bounce that around. They stacked the things that were the biggest to them, and you can kind of see the biggest concerns to them were their financials. The disease itself were concerns to them, meaning they have financial implications and they have disease implications that come out of this thing. And this is a spread grid of how they rated it, but I think you get the idea of the size and the scope of what these coaches are faced with at a level. They've got a domino effect in its extended eligibility, and all of you have talked about that. And so sheer roster management size and financial roster management size are the two biggest eligibility issues they've got. The chance that they have to change scholarship some is real. The chance that they have to meet with their returners and do something financially with them is real. And so they have a number of issues there. So as you walk through these issues here, Lauren, I'm going to go back to you and lead it in. Do any of these answers surprise you or concern you right now headed into college, knowing where they're at?
Definitely none of them surprise me because just the amount of uncertainty and stuff like that, like that's not surprising. But as I talked about earlier, like it's hard to not be worried as an incoming freshman. You know, these coaches are returning everybody on their roster, and plus they're getting new people. So like you almost think that immediately they're going to want to redshirt their new people. And so I think incoming freshmen are coming into their own bit of uncertainty within all of this because you don't know what's going to happen. You know, you've got to go in and beat out girls that have got, you know, a year plus of experience under their belt. But you have the same amount of eligibility as some of them. So, you know, there's just a lot of uncertainty surrounding the incoming freshmen and stuff like that.
What about you, Jay? You're headed to Florida State, and obviously Lonnie's always carried a big roster. Is there any concerns for you there in this data that I'm just now showing you?
Not really. I mean, yeah, there's concerns, but I mean, like the roster size one, that doesn't really concern me. It's you have to earn your spot no matter what, and there's always going to be a downsizing of rosters towards the end of the season. So it's either show up or sit out, and that's the competitiveness that you have to have. So it's not really that I'm nervous. It's more of what can I do to get better right now to compete, so when I get there, I earn my spot. So
okay, that makes a lot of sense. How about you, Hannah? From your standpoint, what about this data would concern you?
I think it's just a lot of, like everybody else said, uncertainty. I think I'm worried about even in the fall not being able to go on time and being able to resume our lives as normal. So I think that that's a big concern. And I think that people forget, I think a lot of people think that, oh, it's just sports, these are just activities, but a lot of this is people's livelihood and people's mental health. And I think that when we look at sports, we need to think of it that way instead of just thinking of it as a leisurely activity.
Makes a lot of sense. Tessa, on this one, these stressors, how do you feel about them for the coaches?
With Jaya, and you know, I hear a lot of people that say, oh man, I have to play with these big rosters, and going in next year to UCLA, there's big names like Bree Perez, Aaliyah Jordan, and from my perspective, I think I get to play with them. Like they will get to push me. They're going to be my motivation to want to be a part of that starting nine. So I think it's a blessing in itself to have to work a little bit harder next year.
How about you, Michaela?
From where I stand, I also agree with Jaya. But you have to think there's a whole another group of freshmen that's going to be coming in the year afterwards. And so I think that there are going to be some cuts, but a lot of people are going to have to prove, you know, why they are there at Florida State. And, you know, it's all about competition. And I love that. I live for competition. And so you can either take it and run with it, or you can just go back home. And a lot of people might transfer out too. So it's a lot of uncertainties, but it's just something that we're going to have to face and deal with.
Allie, from your standpoint, you're heading in on an injury that won't allow you to go for a while. You had already known that was probably going to be the case. What is this new information?
You know, it's nothing, I guess, super concerning. I mean, we obviously have our uncertainties, but after kind of this had all started, you kind of adjust to having to go just day by day and deal with what has been given to you pretty much. And so I have definitely even learned to do that before the virus with my knee. You just got to deal with what has been given to you and work as hard as you can at what you've got. So it's just kind of go day by day and do what you can when you can.
Super. Bailey, you're in the process of trying to get recruited. What did some of this information say to you?
the most concerning part is the fact that some of them won't be able to like fly to tournaments. Like even if there's tournaments and like they want to come, some of them probably can't come because of like health issues or they like just safety precautions, and that kind of like, how am I supposed to show you what I can do if like you're not there?
It makes a lot of sense. Now, do you worry that anyone will see you? How do you think it's going to work out for you?
I'm hoping the sparkler happens and that a lot of people can come out to that one, but I'm thinking like online emails and me throwing to a catcher or like lots of film videos is going to be my best bet right now.
Interesting. Okay, gals, I've got a couple other wrap-ups here, and I'm just going to kind of, this was an assortment of where they coached at, the coaches that reported here. I'm going to kind of walk it around and let you guys wrap it off from this standpoint. Bailey, you got the mic. What tips would you give other juniors out there in America that you've got from being part of this process?
I mean, use the fact that college coaches are probably around their computers at all times to your advantage. Like, try and send as many emails as possible. Get them to, like, remember you. Keep them updated on, like, when you can play, like, what you're doing and stuff like that.
Good point. Final thoughts from you, Hannah.
I think this whole experience has just been really eye-opening to the fact that we need to be grateful and we need to not take anything for granted. I think that this time is good for you to work hard and go back where you left off. I think it's important not to take any days off and to use the extra time that's been given to you to better yourself.
Very good point. How about you, Lauren? What would you share with the people out there listening today?
I just hope everybody's making the best out of the extended amount of time that we've had at home and had with our families, and I hope that, this gives a new perspective for everybody. This really showed me that, as much as I love softball and as much time as I've spent on it, there are other things in life. And so I've really enjoyed getting to spend some more time with my family, especially before I go to college, because I'm going like 5 hours away. And so it's really exciting to, just have these extra little moments before I leave.
Good points. Allie?
I think it is definitely eye-opening, and we also need to remember, we're not alone. Everybody's going through this at once, and there's a lot of people that this has affected recruiting. And so for one, we need to remember that we're not alone, but we also, I think this is good for self-accountability, staying active, doing what you need to do for yourself to stay in the best shape and be prepared for when we do return to whatever our new normal may be, or if it will be back to kind of our old ways. I think we need to hold ourselves accountable, but also realize we're not alone.
Very good points. Michaela?
I would like to add on accountability. This is a huge break, and you can either treat it like summer break, like you've never played softball in your whole entire life, or you can take it and work on the things that you can on your own and try to make yourself an even better player. And I remember when this quarantine first started, the first 2 weeks, I was like, oh yeah, this is like spring break. And then it hit me like, no, I need to wake up. I need to make myself breakfast. I need to work out. I can't help myself if I'm just going to be sitting around doing nothing.
Very good advice. Jaya? You're on mute. There you go.
I think it's so different right now, and like there's a lot of things that can be done to like actually let us play if we just put those into action or we bring those up to the right people. I think that if the right precautions are put in place, that we could play this summer, because we are not basketball, we are not football, we are none of these other sports that there's a high level of physical contact. And so I think that, in my own opinion, that we can play and that we have a great opportunity to do that.
That's a good point. I'm going to go to let Tessa wrap it, and then I'm going to give you a concept and an idea how you could help. So go ahead, Tessa.
First, I want to say thank you for the opportunity to be a part of this panel with these awesome girls. And for juniors out there concerned about college, you know, right now we're on Zoom. Technology is evolving every day. So I would tell you guys to record videos of you doing things at home and send that to as many colleges as you can. And for everyone watching at home, you know, stay safe. We're all in this together, and do your part in staying home for as long as you can, just so that this virus doesn't spread anymore. So.
Super. Gals, I know that getting you back and letting you play is pretty critical. And as adults, we've kind of buried your story. So today was about exposing your story. I'm going to show you an idea on a fourplex that was designed to let you play. And it really shows how social distancing, if every field had a full load of kids on it, bases loaded, that the distancing that looked like that on one field, it would meet all the criteria, back the umpire up a little bit, and we got it. We will obviously warm up behind the temporary fences, and that's the size of each one of those squares is the size of a Whole Foods market. And then over here, you got a bunch of big box stores sitting on the other field. And then if we break out the dugouts and spectator areas where the dugouts are red and blue and the spectators in yellow, we've got the chance to do all kinds of things. And by putting somebody at the front gate to just keep an eye on things, keep them spaced on the way in and out, we can accomplish amazing things. We probably can't solve the playgrounds completely, but the ballpark's ours and it's safe. And if we take a look at an individual field and just say, with restrooms, it's no different than a restroom in a restaurant or any other public facility. We can put a monitor there. We can make it watch. Concessions can be whatever the city wants. And so our dugouts, though, can be re-enlarged and changed where we claim a little bit of the bleachers and a little bit of the fence line and then put the spectators in their own area. And by the time we get done, we're going to end up with something. That's a 26-person dugout. And we claim a little of the bleachers and claim a little of the fence line. We space out and we got it. And then if we come back here and we congregate before and after, we got it as we leave. And if we sit our families in the bleachers in pairs in every other row and go down the fence line, we got it. And if we take the bathrooms and we handle them just like anybody else would with good hygiene routine and put lines and markers out, we got it. And if we look at the insides on how many people could come in, 6 allowed, we got it. And if we take the tables out there and say, we're going to mark off 2, you can't sit them, we got it. And if we come back here and put a monitor on to make sure we do it right, we're there. And if we take the entryway and we walk in on one side and out on the other properly spaced, we can do this. And so if we look at any fourplex in America, to reduce it to the ridiculous, the average ball field has enough room to put 13 fast food restaurants inside of it. And that's about every brand I can list right now. And so, but if we took those 13 restaurants and said, inside one we put 4, inside another one we put 4, inside another one we put 4, that's our whole field. Those right there, those 15 people, all we can put on the diamond at once to fit inside those 13 restaurants. And we're outdoors. And we can walk in with a mask and take it off when we play and put it back on to exit. So to reduce it to the ridiculous, ladies, we deserve to be able to play. And the Let Us Play campaign that you're behind, that my gals are behind, it needs to be that our voice should be heard. We're not every bit as safe. We're actually safer than any other solution I've seen. So from our standpoint to you, we're going to release this to anybody that wants to copy it, because 13 restaurants in the size of one ball field and only 15 of us in them, that's 1 per restaurant. Ladies, thank you for your opinions, your concepts, future's in really good shape. You guys are bright, you're articulate, you understand the issues, and America's in a good spot. So thank you for being a part.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chu, you can take us off now.